Hello guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Lumez Emiren Oluchi, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be teaching you guys how to draft a basic skirt. So if this tutorial sounds like something that you're going to be interested in, then you have to keep watching. But before we get right into it, have you subscribed to my channel? Well, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so that you're going to be notified every time that I upload a new video. So guys, let's go get right into this tutorial. Okay, so guys, to begin this tutorial, first you need your pattern paper. I have a pattern paper here. Then you're going to be needing your tape rule. I have my tape rule. You'll be needing your master plan here. It has a curved edge and also a straight part I can actually use as a ruler. You need your scissors to cut out after you're done drafting. You need your tracing wheel. You're going to see me use this later on in this. Let me show you very well, so in case you want to go get it. So you need your tracing wheel here, and you also need your marker. Yes, you need your marker. So these are the tools that I need to draft this tutorial. But just in case you're drafting directly on your fabric, then you don't need a marker. What you need is a tailor's chalk. Okay, let's begin. So guys, for this basic skirt tutorial, these are the measurements I'm going to be working with. I have like 5 measurements that I'm going to be working with. My waist 27 inches, my hip 37 inches, my skirt length that's 22 inches, from my waist to my knee 20 inches, from my waist to my hip is 8 inches. So first thing I did was to mark out my hem allowance of 2 inches. This hem allowance is not static. You can do 1.5 or you can even do 1 inch. It depends on what you want. But for this tutorial, I'm going to be using 2 inches hem. And after I was done doing that, I used my ruler to connect the lines and make it a straight line. Then I went ahead to use my ruler to mark out my skirt length. But while I was marking this, I realized 22 was too long for my paper, so I went ahead to reduce it by 1 inch, and I now had a skirt length of 21 inches. I did that, and I brought in my ruler and I used it to just straighten out the lines and square it up. So after I was done doing that, I took out my ruler and then I brought back my tape. Then for my waist, I'm going to be marking my 8 inches for my hip line, and then my 18 inches for my knee line. So guys, for my hip line, how I get it is from my waist to that protruding part of your hip on the side. That's where you have your heel line. And for mine is from my waist to my hip line is 8 inches, and then from my waist to my knee line is 18 inches. You'll be wondering how we came about 18 inches. My original knee line is 20 inches. But what I usually do when I'm done measuring, I measure from my waist and I tilt my knee, like bend it over, and then I get like 20. I got 20 inches. Then I usually will go up by 2 or 3 inches. This enables me so that after I'm done sewing, I'm going to have a lot of ease to walk around. It's not going to hold me on the knee and all. So once I was done doing that, I went ahead to use my ruler to straighten the lines, and then I labeled my lines. You can see it there, my waist, my hip line, my knee line, and then my hem. I went ahead to look at the measurements again, and I saw that the only 2 circumference I had to insert on these lines that I've created was just the waist measurement, the waist circumference measurement, and the hip circumference measurement. So for my waist, guys, usually I use my phone to calculate this, but because I was filming with it at the moment, what I did was I had to use my tape and I folded it over. First I folded into 2 places, and then I folded into another 2, which means my waist divided by 4, which makes it my waist divided by 4 is 6.75. So my waist divided by 4 is 6.75. So after I was on doing that, I did the same thing for my hip. My hip divided by 4 is 9.25. So I went ahead to insert it on the hip line. So once I was done doing that, next was my knee line. Now whatever I have on my hip line, I had 9.25 for my hip line. I'm usually going to take out 1 and insert it on my knee area. Now this is because for the human figure, the hip area is usually protruding, and then coming towards the knee, you find out, just like in the diagram that I'm drawing right now, that the knee area, sinks in a little bit, creating that obvious curve on the hip. So in order to help you achieve that, in order for you to achieve that, you have to take out some measurements from the hip line. So what I usually do is that I take out 1 from my hip line and I go ahead and I insert it on my knee line to create that obvious curve. But guys, if you're working with a client who has a lot of protruding waist and then very tiny knee, then I'll advise that you use 1.5 inches at this point instead of 1 inches. Once I was done doing that, I went ahead to bring the same thing down on the length of my skirt. So guys, if you're working with a longer skirt, that's the same thing you will do. Just bring the same thing you have on your knee down on the length of your skirt. Then after I was on doing, just like you see me doing, I used my ruler to connect them. Then I brought in, after I was on doing this, I wanted to use this curve for my hip. I realized it wasn't going to give me a perfect curve, so I had to bring in my arm curve, and I used it to connect my waist to my hip. Guys, if you have your hip curve, you can go ahead at this point to use it, but this also works perfectly for me because I don't have a hip curve, and this works perfectly for me. So I'm going to be connecting using this now, and I connect from my waist to my hip. Then after I'm done doing this, you're going to see, like in the picture here, in the video here. So next thing I'm going to do is to insert my side allowance. So the side allowance I'm using for this tutorial is 2 inches. Guys, also, just like about the hem, this 2 inches is not static. You can decide to use 1.5 or 1 inch, okay, or even more, but I don't see why you need to use more than 2 inches. Why I usually use 2 inches, because I don't like using 1 in case maybe my client comes in for her fitting and then I realize that maybe she's bigger than the size that I measured the last time. I could see somewhere that I'm going to readjust. But then if you want to use 1, you can go ahead and feel free to do that. After I was on doing that, I had to connect the lines together like I did on the actual allowance. Now once I was done doing that, I went ahead on the waistline, on the side waistline, I went ahead to go up by 1/2 inch. Now this 1/2 inch I'm going up by helps my waist sit properly. So when I go by 1/2 inch, I'll bring in my ruler and I'm going to connect that 1/2 inch to the center point of my skirt, like you see me doing in this video. Now this helps my skirt sit very perfectly on my waist. Then once I was on, and also helps to reduce the excess bulge at the front. Now once I was done doing this, I will go ahead to also extend that line, the 1/2 inch I raised up by, to the allowance side. And once I was done doing this, there's nothing more to do for the front basic skirt. Next we're going to do the back. So now I'm going to bring in my scissors and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, just like you're going to see me show you. I'm going to go ahead and use my scissors to cut it out, but before I did that, I went ahead to label my front basic skirt, so that you know that this is the front. Then I'm going to go ahead to cut it out right now. And once I was on doing that, I'm going to use my front to place on my back on a fresh pattern paper for my back basic skirt. Okay, so I brought in a fresh pattern paper for my back basic skirt, and I went ahead to place the front on it. But before I actually aligned them together, I had to mark out my 1 inch for zipper allowance, because definitely my skirt is going to have a zipper at the back. So I marked out my 1 inch for my zipper allowance. Once I was on doing that, I just ruled the line straight up, and then I moved the front skirt and aligned it with the back, making sure that the center point of the front skirt starts at the zipper line that you see me drawing right now. It doesn't exceed it, because that zipper line is actually independent of its own. So just like you see me doing in this video, I'm going to align it like that, and then I'll bring in my pins and I'm going to pin it down. The reason I'm actually pinning this down is so that it doesn't move around by the time I bring in my tracing wheel to trace this front, to trace out the back with the front. So I went ahead to pin it, and after I was on doing that, I just had to go ahead to label my zipper area as the zipper allowance. So once you're looking at it, you know that this is the zipper allowance. So after I was on doing this, then guys, I had to now, okay, just like you see me doing now, I'm labeling my zipper allowance. So after I was done doing this, I will go ahead now to bring in my tracing wheel. I'm going to trace out my front for the back. Use my front to trace out for the back, like you see me doing in the video. I traced out the waist, I traced out the side allowances, I traced out the actual circumference allowance, I traced out even the lines. Then once I was on doing this, I had to unpin it and take it out, and I could see some dotted lines that my tracing wheel had created, but I'm not sure you're going to be seeing that in this video. But once you do, you're going to see yours. So after I was on doing that, I brought in my ruler and I connected all my lines together, and then I had to also label it like I did in the front. For the front, I labeled it, and then guys, I had to turn this over because I realized that the zipper area was not showing so well, and I needed you to see what I'm about to do to create our illusion for the back that helps our back sit properly and have a very perfect fit. So after I had turned it, and I went ahead to bring in my tape measure again, and from my hip line I'll go down by 1 inch to create my butt sitting, guys. Yes, my butt sitting, where my ass is going to sit. So I'm creating it. I have to go down from my hip line. I went down by 1 inch and I extended that line on that zip area. Now after I do this, I'm going to be deciding where I want my slit to be. So I actually wanted to use that 18 inches knee line for my slit, but then I decided to just go up by 1 inch because I wanted my slit to be a little higher, or open rather. So once I was done doing that, it meant that from my waist to where my slit started was 17. So after that, then I went ahead to do other things. So but guys, I'm going to explain to you what is a bum illusion is about. A bum illusion is just to create that just like the name implies, an illusion, something that's not there, but after you're done doing this, it feels like, okay, this person has a much of an ass. Do you understand? So now after I was on doing these things, I had to go over to the waist right now, and I went in by 1/2 inch because for at the back of your ass, on the waist area, it is sunk inwards, coming towards the bum area. It is protruding, and then on the other down part, you can see that it goes inward. So I used my ruler to connect that 1/2 inch into my butt, like you see in the video right now, into the butt sitting that I created, like you see in the video right now. Once I was on doing that, on my knee, on that my slit, where my slit is, I had to go in by another 1/2 also, and I still use my ruler to connect it into the same butt sitting. Now this helps to, like I told you guys earlier, to create some kind of bum illusion, like here you have that big ass, but then you really probably don't. And it also helps to give a very good fit at the back lower part of the ass. So but guys, there's something I usually do for me to create even a much more illusion than ordinarily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take in the entire 1 inch and I'm going to connect it all the way down. Then I'm going to use my marker right now to trace and show you how you are going to cut it when you are actually cutting it out with your ruler. Okay, this is what you're going to cut out. The other parts are going to actually go off by the time you cut them out. Now looking at this back, you would already see that we've created some kind of spacing that will enable our ass to sit properly. Okay, that's going to enable our ass to sit properly, and this helps you so that when you're sitting down, or when you wear your skirt and you're sitting down, it's not going to be too tight or not allow you move properly. That's the importance of this butt illusion, and it also helps give you a perfect fit on the butt area, and it helps you relax very well. So once I was done doing that, I used my scissors to actually show you where you're going to cut out. So I went ahead to cut this out, And after I was on doing this, cut the back, cut the side, I cut the waist. I had to bring in my front to show you guys the difference between the front and the back. Actually, they're almost the same, apart from the difference on the zip allowance area. So guys, at this point now, I'm going to go ahead to insert my dart on my waist, on my back waist. I don't like to insert a dart on my front waist. I usually don't see the need, since the back is actually where I need to. Darts are for shaping clothes. That's where I need to shape, you know, and also create that room for my art. So I just decide to only do on the back. I don't like to do on the front. I usually don't see any need, but if you want to do your dart on the front, you can go ahead. What I do is, from that zipper allowance line, the one on the skirt, I'm going to mark out my 4 inches. And then from the actual waistline, not on the half-inch rise, actual waistline, I'm going to go down by 5 inches to create my dart length. Okay, so 5 inches on my dart length. Then once I was done doing that, I brought in my tape and I connected the line all the way into the half-inch rise that I had. You see what I have there? So once I was done doing that, I used my marker to open each side by 1/2 inch, and then I connected it into the 5 inches point, creating some sort of a V like you see me doing in the video. And once I was on doing this, my skirt dart is ready. The back of my skirt is actually ready. So I brought back the front. Guys, if you want to add your dart to the front, that's fine, you can go ahead and do that, but I usually don't like to do it. So what you're going to do is that you're going to still mark out the same 4 from the center point of your skirt, and then for the length of the front dart, you actually do 6 inches instead of 5 that I did for the back. So I had to place the 2 sides now, both the front and the back, so that you see what it actually looks like. Now looking at these patterns, you're going to see that my skirt, I already have that illusion at the back for my skirt. You see how the down part is sunk inwards, so it's going to help it align very well, and on the waist area at the back is also sunk in. So guys, with that, look at how perfect this is. So with that, we'll come to the end of this basic skirt tutorial. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.